On October 15, 1986, a C-123 cargo plane goes down over Nicaragua. Dates like this usually feel like just another point on a timeline, but this was one of those moments after which there is no going back. The plane is shot down, not an accident, not a mechanical failure. It is taken out. It breaks apart in midair, crashes, and almost immediately it becomes clear this is not some random incident. Inside are Kalashnikov rifles, ammunition, military uniforms, boots, gear. And a simple question appears almost by itself. What is a cargo like this doing in the skies over Nicaragua? The answer comes quickly. The Contras, fighting a civil war against the Nicaraguan government and long associated with the United States, with the CIA, with covert support. But there is a problem, and it is a fundamental one. The U.S. Congress has officially banned any financing or support of the Contras. Not discouraged, banned. No intelligence agencies, no officers, no private individuals acting on behalf of the government. Formally, America is out of this war. The plane crashes, the bodies of the pilots are found, and if the story had ended there, it could have been written off as another gray episode of the Cold War. But a few days later, another man is found. He survived. He jumped from the plane with a parachute, landed, and spent several days trying to escape the country. At night, he slept in a hammock made from his own parachute, a detail that sounds too cinematic to be real. But it was real. He is captured, interrogated, and he starts talking. He says the weapons were meant for the Contras. He says the operation was under CIA control. He says the planes were private, chartered as part of a covert air bridge. And he names a man connected to the CIA, Oliver North. At that moment it becomes clear this is not an isolated incident. It is a fragment of something much larger, much uglier. And if you keep pulling on that thread, something big is going to come apart. To understand how a scheme like this could even exist, you have to rewind a few years and move to Iran. In the 70s, Iran is a U.S. ally, a Shah-led monarchy, a showcase of stability in the Middle East. American weapons, American equipment, American advisors. The entire military is built around the United States. Then comes 1979, the Islamic Revolution. Ayatollah Khomeini comes to power, and overnight Iran turns from ally to enemy. American diplomats are taken hostage in Tehran, 52 people. Washington responds with sanctions, including a total arms embargo. No more deliveries. Almost immediately, the Iran-Iraq War begins. Long, exhausting, brutally bloody. And here the paradox appears. Iran is fighting with American weapons, but can no longer buy spare parts or ammunition. Iran needs weapons just to survive, so it starts looking for back channels. Europe, intermediaries, gray markets. At the same time, a new president enters the White House, Ronald Reagan. A man who genuinely believes communism is the central threat to the world. His advisors tell him the embargo is not working. Iran is still arming itself, and some of those weapons are now coming from the Soviet Union. There is a real risk Iran will slide fully into the Soviet orbit. For Reagan, that is unacceptable. And almost as a mirror image, in Nicaragua a pro-Soviet government is in power. Moscow is sending money, weapons, advisors. It infuriates the White House. The Contras become a tool of pressure until Congress says enough. The Boland Amendments cut off funding. Formally, it is over. But this is usually the point in Washington when things get interesting. Because when you cannot act directly, you start looking for workarounds. And someone notices the National Security Council. Formally, it is not an intelligence agency. It is not named in the bans. And this is where the thought is born that will later haunt everyone involved. If you cannot do it officially, you can do it through schemes. At first, everything looks relatively clean. Private arms dealers. Trophy weapons. Israel as a source of captured Soviet arms. On paper, it is just business. The state is not involved. But war is not something you can sustain with one-off shipments. It needs a system. And this is where an idea appears that still feels unsettling. If Iran needs weapons, and the United States needs its hostages back, why not combine the two problems? Sell weapons to Iran through gray channels and get the hostages released in return. It sounds like a deal with terrorists, because it is. Not everyone in the administration agrees, but the CIA director supports the logic. Intermediaries are brought in, people who know everyone and sell everything. And at some point, Oliver North moves to the center of the entire operation. He looks at the scheme and sees it as inefficient, too many middlemen, too many leaks. He proposes something simpler. Sell directly. Send the money to Swiss accounts. And from there, use it to finance the Contras by buying weapons through private companies. Formally, Congress did not forbid this exact configuration. On paper, everything looks clean. And the system starts working. Shipment after shipment goes to Iran. Money accumulates. Hostages are released one by one. And at some point, you get the sense that the people running this operation start believing they are untouchable, as if proper paperwork can cancel consequences. But every such structure has a weak point. In Iran, there are people who hate this deal. One of them leaks the story to the press. In November 1986, the world learns about secret negotiations between the United States and Iran. Washington denies everything. Then Iran confirms it, and it becomes obvious a scandal is unavoidable. After that, events accelerate. Documents are destroyed. Testimonies contradict each other. The Attorney General is forced to admit that money from the Iran deal was used to finance the Contras. Commissions are formed. Congress opens hearings. The president says he did not know the details, but admits he should have exercised control. His approval rating drops, then recovers. Most of the people involved receive suspended sentences or nothing at all. Some are later pardoned, and it starts to feel like the system has protected itself. At the same time, darker rumors surface about drugs, about planes that did not fly back empty, about money flowing far beyond this one war. There is no courtroom-level proof, but the journalist who investigated these claims later dies under strange circumstances. The story slowly moves into the archives, but the aftertaste remains, because it becomes clear this is not a story about individual mistakes. It is a story about how power works, how responsibility dissolves between agencies, how everyone is formally right but morally wrong, how schemes outlive laws, and how people who once enter the elite rarely ever leave it. That is why this story does not feel outdated, because it is not really about the past. It is about a mechanism that is still very much alive.